This is our Unit 1 objectives. So these are all of the standards that you will be held accountable for at the end of the unit. So you can take a look at those, see what we will be learning. Our first lesson is on solving 1 and 2 step equations. We're going to start with inverse operations. Our first operation is addition. To undo addition, we're looking at the opposite operation so that we can undo addition. So to do that, we need to use subtraction. The next one is multiplication. For multiplication, we do not want to use the x to show multiply because that gets confused with the variable x, and then we don't know if we have to multiply or if it's the variable. So we want to either write the constant with the variable side by side, that means multiply, or you can put the dot between them. To undo multiplication, you use division. We do not want to use the divided by sign. Although if you take a look at the divided by sign, you have a fraction bar. You have a dot for the top, which is the numerator, and a dot for the bottom, which is the denominator. This is actually how we write division in algebra. We write it as a fraction, which is what the division sign actually stands for. Then you have square. So that's any number to the second power or any variable to the second power. And to undo that, you use the square root. So this is what the square root sign looks like. If you put an x squared inside of it, you end up with an x. So the square root gets rid of the squared on the x. So you might see addition. You could see it as x plus 5. You would see it as 5 plus x. Those are two exactly the same thing. Doesn't matter with addition which order you go in. For subtraction, you could have x minus 3. You can also rearrange this, but the negative sign stays with the 3 because minus 3 and negative 3 are the same thing. And then it would be a plus x because in front of everything is invisible plus sign. Multiplication we just talked about a little bit. We said that you could have the coefficient and the variable side by side, or you can use a dot. You could also use two numbers, so 4.2. You could use parentheses, so 3 parentheses a can also mean multiply. Works the same way with numbers. We could have 4 parentheses 2, and that means 4 times 2. Another way that you see parentheses is when you have an expression. So if you have the expression x plus 2 and you want to multiply that whole thing by 4, you would put in parentheses, put the 4 on the outside. We are going to use this information to solve one-step equations. So what you want to do is you want to divide this into the left side and the right side. Just draw an arrow down or draw a line down through the equal sign. Find your x. 8 is attached to the x by an addition sign, so we do the opposite of that, which is subtract. X equals negative 5. So do the same thing over here. Divide it into the left side and right side. Find your x. This is a negative 5 attached to it, so the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. So x equals 7. This one has an x, so we have a left side and a right side. This has a negative 4 attached to it, and it's attached like we talked about when we were talking about multiplication. It looks like this, where we have the coefficient and the variable side by side. So this means multiply. To undo multiply, we divide. So we have to divide both sides by a -4. -4 over -4 becomes invisible 1. So you're left with x equals 20 divided by -4 is -5. Okay, isolate my x. Left side and right side. This is x divided by 7. So to undo division, you multiply. 7 over 7 becomes invisible 1. -4 times 7 is -28. Okay, this one tells us that we need to use the reciprocal. So left side, right side. Here's my variable. So we need to take the reciprocal of what's multiplied by the variable. So we're going to take times 3 over 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. There's your x. 13 times 3 is 36 over 2. Well, 6 over 6 becomes invisible 1. 36 divided by 2 equals 18. Okay, so we want left side, right side. This has an x on both sides. So we have an x here, we have an x here. They have to end up on the same side. So if you have a hard time remembering what to do, a safe bet is always to say letters go to the left, numbers go right. So if we're going to take our letters to the left, we're going to take 10x. So remember, this is invisible plus sign right there. So that means we need to do the opposite, which is subtract 10. This has invisible plus sign too. So 10x minus 10x is 0. 2 minus 10x is -8x. Bring down the -18. Bring down the -6. So here's my x. Left side, right side. So now we need to get the -18 to the other side. -18 plus 18 becomes 0. -8x equals how about a positive 12? Here's my x. Divide both sides by -8. 4 will go into both of those. We can reduce that, so that's going to be 3 over -2. I completely skipped two-step equations. So let's go back to that. We want to divide left side and right side. You have an x. Now, anytime you have a number, a coefficient with it, that bond's a little bit stronger than addition and subtraction. So you want to add 8 to both sides. So 5x equals 20. Now you can isolate the x by dividing both sides by 5. And x equals 4. Okay, on this one, left side, right side. Here's my x, and here's the bond that's strongest. So we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. So x over 3 equals -10. Here's my x. It's divided by 3, so we're going to multiply both sides by 3. 3 over 3 is invisible 1. And x equals -30. Which will probably make this next example make a little bit more sense. Okay, so we can have 3 different types of solutions. Everything we've worked so far has only had one solution. So if we solve this, letters to the left, that becomes 0, so we have 2x equals 6. Divide both sides by 2 and get invisible 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. This will have an answer of 3 every single time. Let's work the next one. Letters to the left. 2 minus 2 is 0. 2 minus 2 is 0. And you're left with 10 equals 20. This is false, which is why it's called a no solution. It doesn't matter what number you substitute in, it will never be a true statement. So let's look at this one. We have like terms that you can combine. So negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. Need letters to the left. Negative 3x plus 3x is 0. Negative 3x plus 3x is 0, which leaves you negative 4 equals negative 4. This is a true statement, which means it's infinitely many solutions, or sometimes we just say all solutions. So you can practice doing the odd numbers. Remember, if you want more practice, you can always do the even numbers. Make sure that you are checking your answers. If you're getting the wrong answers, stop working the problems and come and ask me for help so we can make sure we're doing it right.